and we were creating something that did not exist. So we were taking like 10 different spices and then combining it and tasting it ourselves, trying it on food, and then sometimes loving it, sometimes not, then testing it again, then doing. So it really took a lot of time and effort to come up with the right blend.
Hi, welcome back to Recipe to Revenue. I'm your host, Leah Messina, and I am here today with a mom and daughter team from SATYA Blends. I have Rama and Anita, and they're going to share us their story of their amazing spice company that they have started and have been just taking over the shelves all across the country. So welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us,
Thank
Leah.
you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. So let's kind of start at the beginning. Tell us how you got the idea for your business.
Yeah, so this is my mom, like you said. I went to culinary school 20 plus years ago, so I'm a chef by trade. And my mom actually went back to culinary school.
I'm
Yeah.
from the clothing industry, from the fashion industry, a designer all my life. So a big change in my career.
Yeah. So really
Yeah,
after of
still
course like
creative though.
kitchen. Yes, exactly
It's
in the art
always been
world.
creative.
After being in the kitchen for so many years, personally with my mom as a young girl, professionally, then in culinary school, and then being a private chef and a caterer, we noticed that there were so many people, wanting to cook with these Indian flavors. They wanted to introduce spices. We came from a lineage of amazing cooks. Satya is the name of my grandmother, my mom's mom, who was a big inspiration in this, spice blend. We noticed that, people really, really need a vehicle and a vessel, and they really need to not feel so overwhelmed and confused by Indian flavors. So we thought spice blends, right? That's an easy way.
Yeah, yeah. And normal Indian food is actually not easy.
No.
Let's put it that way. You need
Yes.
like some of you
Complex
may
flavors.
need that whole complex container of the spice tin, and people don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So we said, well, let's make it easy and simple because there's a lot of flavor, and actually spices are very good for you. Like we know turmeric, everybody in the world knows turmeric, and the cumin. And so there's a lot in there that's very healthy and a lot of flavor to your food. So we said, why don't we take everything,
The health aspect, the taste aspect, the global aspect,
and the
family
convenience,
rituals, the convenience,
and
yeah.
take our recipes that were from my mother that I learned along the way from her, and her culinary skills and my creative skills, and we put it together, and we came up with 9 different blends actually.
Yeah, 9
originally.
different blends and growing. So, it was born from need, it was born from legacy, it was born from convenience, and it was born from solving the problem of how do we add global, especially Indian flavors in your everyday foods without the overwhelm and the confusion.
Yeah, I love Indian food, and it usually is just let's go out to eat or pick some up because it's not, recipes that I know how to make offhand or probably wouldn't, make very well the first couple of times anyway, or have to go find the ingredients.
Exactly.
But I love the aromas and the flavors. And yeah, I love that you're just making it more accessible to people who do want to cook at home and
Like who want to make it their go-to pasta with marinara sauce. You know what I mean? Like we want to make it as easy as that you're not like so daunted or so confused, or you just decide like, you know what, I'm going to order it out. Now you don't need to. You literally can like 15 seconds.
And you want success the first time because you don't want to be here cooking something and then taste it and go like, yeah.
Or no, let's order out anyway.
Yeah, I just spent all this money on ingredients and a couple of hours putting it together, and now I can't eat it.
Yeah.
So we needed
that's disappointing.
Yeah. And it's happened to all of us.
Yeah, it is.
So we wanted to get rid of that, and also at times we wanted to make sure that the ingredients that are used in our spices, they're all blended, different spices, they're very clean, make sure that there's no food dyes, and clean as clean can get in terms of the ingredients. So, today we're in a world that there's a lot of crap out there. So we wanted to make sure that the ingredients were all super clean because if you're ordering out, you firstly don't know what you're ordering. So this way we
Exactly.
make our spices were
Yeah,
very clean.
fantastic. So, Anita, did you have these recipes written down from your mother, or were they all passed down just through experience?
I came from a generation where moms and grandmoms never measured anything. You just stood in front of them and they said a little bit of this and a pinch of that and more of that, and you go like, "But?" And she goes, "Well, then you taste it along the way and it gets done." So that's how I learned. Actually, I grew up in this country and my mother was in India when I was a very young girl. And I kind of learned cooking from her on the phone. And we didn't have, by the way, we didn't have Zoom and all that and FaceTime. So it was like, okay, then you add that much, like a big pinch and a small pinch. So
Yeah.
what's a big pinch and a small
What's a
pinch?
big pinch? Yeah.
So I learned
You just
cooking.
is by taste and eyeballing it, right? That's where the
Yes,
experience comes in.
like, and it always worked out, believe me. So I learned it from her that way. And she herself died quite young, in her late 50s. So I learned a lot because she was quite sick with cancer for 7 years. And from all that I had learned as a young girl, she would tell me, okay, you cook for me. I love your cooking. And I would cook for her. And then I would say, is it okay? Is it like the way you would cook? Because she was unable to cook for some years. And she always said, oh, I didn't even live in the same city as her. And she would say, I'm going to wait for you to come to make me what I like to eat. And that was always so touching for me, that. And I guess it really got me into Indian food, though I grew up not cooking it so much myself. But those memories of her saying, I love the food that you cook, it really hits the spot. I started to develop that taste. I think that part of my life, those 7 years that she was sick with her breast cancer, really taught me to cook Indian food to get the right taste. And I got to be grateful for you got to be grateful for every experience.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That was a time that you were really able to refine it and made it with a lot of love for her, I'm sure.
Made it with a lot of love and perfection,
Yeah.
and always
Yeah.
waiting to hear from her. So is it right? Is it the way you'd like it? Do you think it needed more sourness or more this or that? And she'd be, no, 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 this is perfect. Stick with this. And I guess I developed the recipes at that stage of my
Yeah.
life. I
Based
was
upon
my
that.
20s and 30s then.
Wow. Oh, that's a beautiful story. And
Yeah.
then Rama, did you grow up then also cooking with your mom and that
Oh, all the
nurtured your
time.
love of cooking?
She was my inspiration. Actually, my mom took a culinary school when I was 18. I went to the Culinary Institute of America in upstate New York. A lot of the times when you are 18, different people want to do different things. You want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be, so for me it was being a chef. And I grew up literally on the kitchen counter from, I don't know, the age of what, 4, 6, helping her make, samosas, dumplings, rotis. And I always loved like cooking and serving and entertaining. Um, and she worked full time in the fashion industry. So like to see uh, her work on a full day and then come home and we would enjoy different meals from different countries every day of the week and hardly any leftovers. It was huge. And so kind of taking that essence of cooking and hospitality and sitting down at the dinner family table really inspired what we do today and who I am today as a chef and as a business owner, as a mom, a cook at home, a professional chef. So, I think taking old school kind of flavors and recipes and then modernizing
Hmm.
them was one of the biggest things for us with our spice blend.
Yeah. So you started your career and you still do private chef
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yes. I have a
And
private
so
chef company for the last 16 years and still running.
yeah. Yeah. And so what point did you start to think about coming out with your own product?
I mean, it kind of happened, like everything happens in life. It kind of just, there's no plan as such. We've always thought about a product together,
Hmm.
for so many years
Yeah.
after she went back to culinary school in her late 50s. And I was very much in the height of the busyness with my 3 kids. I actually sprained a little like bone in my foot. And I remember being in one of my private chef clients' homes in a boot, and I'm thinking like, oh, how long am I going to be able to do this for if something ever happened to my foot or my hand, as a working chef in the kitchen? It kind of confirmed that I wanted to do something where we could still spread amazing flavors and empower people to enjoy delicious food, but through a product. And her and I were talking about it for 10
For
years.
many
I
years,
mean,
yeah.
we played around with sauces, savory yogurts, granolas. We played around with so many products, and then we realized like spices are the foundation of most dishes in any cuisine, whether it's, of course, Indian, but even when it comes to, Chinese food, the ginger, garlic, and scallions, the base of that, when it comes to even, certain Italian food
Mhm.
where it's like fennel seeds or, cumin seeds or something, they have those spices. We realize like, why don't we do something that's really easy for people to understand, but also not so daunting for them to be like, wait, what? I have to use this special, I don't know, turmeric, and then I got to find another special cumin seeds, and then I got to find another special, cardamom,
And
so
then
we
I have
really
to
wanted
roast, and then I
roast
have to
these.
roast it at home and not burn them,
Yeah.
and then grind them,
Yeah. And then
then get
cool
the
it.
best, and then
Right.
cool it, and then so it's like, okay, I'm just making burgers tonight, but I'm
Right.
bored
Yeah.
of the salt and pepper. And so now I got to
Yeah.
do all this process. So you got to like take all that out, and I want to make sure that it's going to taste good at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's a happy medium between the two-step burger and the, 35 step, exquisite, meal, right?
Yeah, and there's a time and a
So,
place for everything, right? That's what we say as
yeah.
professional chefs. We do understand what it takes, for example, to like make pasta from scratch and this and that. There is definitely a time and place. But what we were looking for to really empower the everyday cook to feel like they took 3 hours to make that dish, but they really
Mhm.
didn't. They made it in like 30
Yeah.
minutes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's the literal secret sauce to getting it
Yeah,
done and making everybody happy.
Right.
So,
exactly.
okay. So you had the idea, it was percolating for quite a long while. So what was the next steps that you took to get the product to something tangible?
Yeah. We went to a couple of trade shows. We had some contacts in India, being from India.
I was in the clothing industry, of course, and all my life I worked with India, importing clothes from India. So for us to do like the whole process is not easy for somebody who's not been doing it. So obviously, I had that experience working with India,
With overseas.
and
Yeah.
we said, well,
Yeah.
it's easy for me to do that. So we looked at people at trade shows. I looked at people in India itself, visited my co-factories and saw my co-man how they work. We actually both of us went to the farms to make sure is this where the ingredients are coming from, and also worked on branding our product, which looks like this actually, our tin. It's a very pretty
Yeah.
tin. We wanted it to really stand out in terms of the colors. So the whole process
And the
took
way it
us
opens.
some time, getting it all,
Yes.
improving the colors, loving it. Uh,
It took us about, I would say for the branding part, it took us about a good 18 months. Sourcing our direct partners,
mhm,
farm partners. We kind of work with the farmers co-op that supports smaller other farms as well. So
Mhm.
visiting, vetting them, making sure that like we know the people who are very close to our
mhm.
product and they're as passionate as we are as well, which was very important. And then, so at the same time, I would say it was a double effort of branding and sourcing, and that took a good 18 months.
Yes,
And then, of course, I
sure
mean, the
that.
formulas for the spice blends were there, but we had to refine them. So some of them took us like 20 times to go back and forth to get exactly what we wanted. Because it is a blessing and curse to be a chef. We have high standards for the end product. We're not just,
And we were creating something that did not exist. So we were taking like 10, some of them have 10 different spices, and then combining it and tasting it ourselves, trying it on food, and then sometimes loving it, sometimes not, then testing it again, then doing. So it really took a lot of time and effort to come up with the right blend.
yeah,
Like our tikka taza, for example, which
our
is
Tiga blend.
your tikka masala, is very different from anything that exists out there. We wanted this. Ours has a smoky flavor, so we wanted to think like you really made it on a grill, and the chicken was on a grill. So we made sure that it stands out. We were not going for something that was already
Was
out
generic
there.
from
It
the
was
Indian
generic.
grocery store. Yeah, and flavor and the way it looks too. This is definitely like very unique packaging. Again, we had never
Yeah,
really seen
something
it.
you want to keep on your shelf and look at the
Yeah, we don't want to
containers. They're
hide away
very
in the
pretty.
pantry, or you don't want to buy another spice container. You know what I mean, and put in the other aesthetic spice container and labeling it with your label maker or whatever. We want to just buy it. It tastes amazing. It looks so beautiful, and it's a conversation starter too.
Yeah. It's interesting as you're talking about going through 20 rounds of coming up with the perfect recipe, because in some cases, maybe this is the first time somebody is trying a Tika blend, or and there's also a responsibility there of, if that's the
Yes.
first time that they're using it, of is that going to taste the way that you would want it to taste, and for them to fall in love with those flavors as well.
Yeah,
That's right.
you're
That's
so
right.
right. Very good point, actually.
That is very, because as we all know, you can Google a recipe. And we said that in the beginning, that you wouldn't want to make something, spend 2 hours and then not be able, it's not edible. And that's exactly what we wanted for the person buying this, to have that total guarantee that, okay, I added it to my chicken. And we're only expecting the person buying this to have some kind of fat, like oil or ghee or butter, whatever you like to use. And salt, we kept them low in sodium because, of course, everybody has a different tolerance for salt. So we said, you always have salt at home and you always have some
Yes,
kind
you
of
can always
oil.
add some more if you absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are the things we wanted to have at home. So even if you did not add, like we recommend adding, let's say, some kind of dairy or coconut milk to our chicken tikka masala. But if you don't have that, we still guarantee you're going to have a great meal with just the chicken or your protein of choice or your tofu, and adding our spice, and you're done.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
expecting you to go out and buy 10 things to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. From product to the table pretty easily. So, as it took so much time to refine and to get the branding correct, and now you're ready to bring the product to market. Did you have, during that period, were you giving samples to retailers to get that lined up? Or are you going to go to D2C? How did you actually take that next step to get it into
We're
market?
laughing because we literally have been talking about this internally in our office for the last 2 weeks nonstop, because our second year anniversary just passed
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. So that's where the conversations were. But thank you. But I think whenever you plan a business, really any business, you always have a plan in mind, just like when you have a baby, when you're like, I'm never gonna let my baby watch TV, eat and
Yeah.
watch TV at the same
Never have a
time.
pacifier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna give them a pacifier, this and that. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. Like, I'm only gonna do direct to customer business. We're only gonna be a D2C site. And then you start getting into the reality of things. I mean, we definitely did a pre-launch before we launched, created buzz, and that was very successful. We had a group of beta testers who tried the product even before we launched it officially.
Yeah.
And then, once we started getting out there, I don't think we really realized we had this whole plan, like I said, but I don't think we really realized what was going to come our way um, when we started. So we realized that retail is definitely something that we wanted to be into, and we wanted to really actually focus on, because, more people are able to try your product, and it's maybe easier to even kind of have them try it if they're already at the grocery store buying their produce, or, whatever, their meats, their seafood and things like that. So we have our website where people order from. We're on
Yeah.
Amazon. We are at Sprouts nationwide. Actually, we did a South Asian pitch competition, and that's how we got there, by sharing our story and doing a little really fun skit and an acting job for another day. We can share that with you. Um,
Well, okay.
and we also just launched in Walmart nationwide as well 2 weeks ago. Has it been 2 weeks? 3 weeks
Yes.
ago. 2, 3 weeks
Yes.
ago. We partnered up with a broker as well. And they've been a great partner. And I think, whoever you surround yourself with when you're ready to sell your product, those other people, those partners have to be as passionate as you are. Because if there's none, that's
To
not
that, I have
shown.
to add a little story that I come from. I mean, I was an importer of clothing all my life, design, and then I sold stores all over the country. So when we started this, Rama said, this is going to be direct to customer, D2C. And I said, "Mm, okay." And I kind of agreed with her, but I knew what I wanted in the back
Yeah,
of
I'm like,
my
okay, if you say so, we'll see.
mind. Mom always knows best. And I
True.
said,
Yeah.
okay, we'll go your way. But I knew in the back of my mind where I wanted to get. Because in my brain, when I sell just let's say to one customer, I'm selling you 9 different spices, and you're going to buy that, of course, and use them and love them. But I'm not thinking of the nine. I'm thinking of the 9,000 pieces. I'm thinking of the 90,000 pieces, and I'm thinking of the 900,000 pieces. So I cannot think of 9 units in those numbers. And then I say that to her, and I guess I was looking for that, and that's where what landed in our plate.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it's very funny because I think a lot of especially early brands just see D2C as like an easier entry point. Okay, we control more of the process. We can get a Shopify store up and running pretty quickly. We can fulfill our, the initial orders ourselves until like maybe we get a big, we have to scale. But then you kind of look at the numbers and you say, well, if we really want to have an impact, or unless we want to dump a ton of money into digital advertising to drive those
Yeah.
people to our online store, we need to look at some other channels here. And I think that's a lot of times just like you just demonstrated where that starts to come into fruition.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and look, there's also opportunities when it comes to D2C and pop-ups and farmers markets and things like that. But again, you need manpower. You can't be doing everything. So there's only so much her and I can be going to. And so we did a lot of that. And we are very grateful for that opportunity.
It's
6 months
we
to one
did a lot
year.
of
Did like,
Mhm.
I don't know, 60 markets in one year, the year that we launched. We learned so much being with our customer face to face, our end customer face to face, that because of them, we are here today with that sense of community. I think it's a great community step, but also getting immediate feedback, like, you know what? Oh, I love your chat party. Like the chat is so fun. It's so like, sweet and spicy and salty. Oh my gosh, this cilantro chutney. Or they come back after a month to that same market and say, I made cilantro, chutney beans the other day and I love them with chickpeas or whatever. So things like that, or you know what, this packaging really saved me, or I bought it as a gift. So I think like every step that you make throughout the business and every channel that you're at serves its purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
So we still do a very small amount of in-person markets, farmers markets and pop-ups. We're in about we still have the website, people order all the time, things like that. And then we're in about 80 indie stores as well. So, which is really great to be at because, they're not like the bigger national stores, but
Yeah, but it's always wonderful to hear from a customer. We just had a call the other day, and this customer had bought a product
at Sprouts.
in
Yeah.
Sprouts, and then he was like, "You don't know how much I love this."
He's like,
You
you're
have
sold out at Sprouts.
Yeah.
He's like, what am I supposed to do
What am I going
now?
to do now? What am I going to do? And then we
Yes.
said, "Yeah, go to our website and order it." But
Yeah.
it's so
Order from the
wonderful
website in the
to
meantime.
hear that. That's like a trophy when your customer speaks to you.
That is the ultimate goal. I mean, that was like,
Seriously.
it just made our day and we couldn't stop talking about it for 2 days. And we were,
Oh my gosh, yes. Those are the reasons that you're in this and they keep you going. And
But
there's
that was,
that one
again,
person who actually chose to speak up. Yeah.
right. And that was a retail
Mhm.
customer to now a direct to customer client, to also, we invited him like, hey, if we have new blends, would you want to try some out? Overjoyed. Yes, for sure. And so that whole thing, it's a very holistic kind of way to think about it. But I think it's every
Mhm.
channel serves a purpose.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That was a great demonstration of that point. So I'm curious so now you're in Walmart for the last couple weeks. How long did that deal take you to get in?
Last year, June to just the launch 2 weeks ago. And honestly, it was a simple, and I'm not even exaggerating, like these stories you hear and you're like, that's not true. But this is literally true. It was a LinkedIn post that, we shared actually our cilantro chutney on eggs. Um, and it was a LinkedIn post, and our broker reposted it from us and got the attention from Walmart. And it was like, who are these people? What's their packaging like? These look amazing. They sound delicious. Let's meet. So it wasn't even like we were going in because we were picking them out. Yeah, it was like, it was definitely meant to be, and we're just really excited to partner with them. A lot of Walmart's values align with ours as well. And yeah, meeting them, thank God we're chefs. We did a whole
And we don't,
5 course
we don't
tasting.
believe that, if we bring this to the table, that you have to buy it. We want you to taste it. And spices is something, if you just taste it by itself, like, what is this kind of?
Yeah.
So we always take something when we have a meeting with the buyer,
Well, that was
we
our
wake
meeting,
up
yeah.
at 5 a.m. We something in our little hotel room wherever we are. Put it together. We always make sure actually that we have a little kitchenette in the hotel we're staying at.
Yeah.
And take that to the meeting because we want them to try what it's going to taste like for the customer that they're buying it for.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a candy bar. It's not like a granola bar that you can just taste it and say it's great. It is a spice that's going to get added to another food. So for that reason, we always make sure that we make a buyer taste it so she knows or he knows what they're selling to their customer.
And Sprouts the same thing. We did the same. Sprouts was a great partner. Amazing for the products that they have there. And same thing. We do like these mini tastings, and as chefs, again, we really try to elevate it every time that we present it to them. It's just not like a pitch deck.
Yeah, that's for them it's I could imagine that the experience is so much better than just being handed something in a wrapper. Be like, okay, peel it apart and take a bite.
Right.
That
Exactly.
you put a lot of care into delivering something of how you want it to be presented and consumed and prepared. So there's extra level special to it.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about and just this experience. You've touched upon it a little bit, but about working with partners that are in India and you being based in New Jersey. How has that been? Any challenges? Of course, there's the time challenge, but logistics of this. How's that experience been for you?
Yeah. I mean, the time change is huge. That's a really important
Sometimes
thing.
we have to wake up at 5 a.m.
To have meetings
and
or
also
stay up.
do a lot of trips. But I was so used to that in my clothing business. I used to travel.
Right, you've been doing that for your whole career already.
I came from a time when we didn't even have a computer back then, right? We didn't have these iPhones and everything. So I used to work by sending a fax. And before the fax, you worked with the telex. So you had to travel to the other part of the world to really work with your partners. So for me now, if I'm traveling twice a year, it seems like a joke. So of course it's been very interesting. And sometimes when you're working across the world, people tell you, yes, the shipment is ready. And you say, okay, so is it on the boat? And they go, nah, it's going to be on the boat in 2 weeks.
Sense of urgency is different.
At the last minute, yes, I will. Thank God I don't have little kids anymore. These are my children. So I can get up and take a flight tomorrow if I have to. So that's been great. And but we've been lucky. We've had very good partners.
We have.
They actually have lived by the quality. We do of course third party testing because you just can't take somebody's word for it. So working across the world, you have to do all your due diligence of going and visiting the farms, then doing third party testing, making sure that everything is followed, the ingredients are what they are, what you're listing them on the product. So
and like making sure they're, clean labeled, as we say, and heavy metals and free and all that, like, lead and whatnot. That was very important. But I also think I think I have to be really honest. I think also being Indian and working with India
and speaking the
language is also helpful. I mean, not that we speak Hindi all the time, but there's no harm in knowing it and speaking it when needed. So I think that's been huge for us too.
Yes.
The experience, I think as a kid, I would go there every year as well. So it's not like somewhere foreign that I'm going. I went there once or twice a year. She went there all the time for 4 or 5 times, a year. And so again, I think it's, if you can work, let's say you're from another country or, or have roots in it, I think that's actually really, really helpful. But I also think like there's a lingo, right? There's like a cultural lingo when it comes to working, have their own. So we know how it is. Just culturally to work with other Indian partners. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure that that part helps you get through. There's a little bit less loss in communication there, and you just have to deal with the time zone of early mornings to get your partners all lined up and whatnot. So, are you packaging the final product into India, or are you shipping the ingredients to the U.S. and then packaging?
No, we are packaging in India. Yeah.
We get it like the way you say it, totally packaged and ready. To ship out.
Fantastic.
So we don't do any packaging here.
We also work with our co-man for the packaging in India, which is in another city. There's a lot of steps to get this finished product.
Because we have another company that does our tins. Because obviously those are produced in another factory. And then you have
the spice partners.
The spice partners in another But all that is the logistics that's not so difficult for us because I was used to India for all my life. That really, my experience in, of course, another industry really helped. That
Sure.
also opened.
Yes. Yes. You're definitely lucky to have that experience because I think a lot of people are learning that as they go on in this field if they don't come
Yes,
from it.
yes.
So your packaging though has a unique feature in it, the plastic plug lid you
Yeah.
designed.
Yeah, it's got this
Tell us about
plastic
that.
plug lids. Every time, again, being a chef, very we cared about this a lot. Regular spice jars, of course, have those 3, 5, 6 holes in it. Every time you shake from there, kind of gets clumpy and then it's really hard to like use. So this we knew that we wanted to save the aroma and the smell and the taste and the shelf life of your spice as well. So every time that you open it, it's like you're sealing the oxygen and whatever would
Hmm.
get it here and turn clumpy, which to be honest a lot of our blends do tend to clump up, but that's because they don't have any preservatives to kind of keep them like that. So you just kind of mix it up with a spoon again and it's all good. But instead of having it, when you shake it out, then you can't really open it up and it's impossible. So this plastic plug lid really retains the moisture, the flavor, the smells. And then every time you open it up, it's like you're opening up a brand new spice tin. It
Yeah.
smells amazing.
Now
Uh,
that's
it's
great. You get that
it's
nice, kind of whiff of that and you kind of
freshness.
get immersed in that flavor. And it
Exactly.
feels fresh too,
Yes, it
after a
totally does.
while,
And
some of
then
those when they lose their smell, then you're like,
right, and you
is this
lose the
really going to be
smell.
contributing to my food?
Exactly, or does it do nothing? Which we've heard that from so many people. Like I buy spices from whatever, company or store and it doesn't really do anything. I'm like, that's because it's probably not stored well. And these are refillable as well. So you could buy the refills online. So we try to make it really beautiful that, you can buy the refills. You could even put
Yeah.
if you want bobby pins,
Sustainable
use this.
packaging, just refill it again. That's great.
Yes. And we just
Absolutely.
launched actually 2 months ago
We just launched
these
these
sachets,
sachets
like taco seasoning. That's
because
what they
it
look
was
like.
just like
Yeah.
for people who wanted one packet and one meal. It
Right.
kind of is a meal for like 8 to 12 people.
So it's like for dinner and then leftovers for lunch, 8 to 12 servings. So great for meal prep, batch cooking. And if, let's say, you don't have maybe space in your kitchen to store this, or I don't
Or you
know.
want to first try this and then say,
Yeah.
you know what?
Yeah. Taste that first or doing an
Yeah.
Airbnb for the weekend and you just want to bring
Right.
the packet.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's so it's based on the taco seasoning kind of packaging where
Hmm.
you just rip it, put into your 2 pounds of meat and you're done. If you love it, you can get the tin. And if you want to keep on buying the sachets, that's okay too.
Hmm. And are those sachets available in your retail partners as well? Okay, fantastic. Tell us about you have a mission that you are that's important to you guys.
Yes, yeah. So tracing it back to my grandparents, they were very much into community service and giving back on a daily basis. Actually, both sets of my grandparents. Um, but Satya, my mom's mom, she would always give back and feed the poor and always make homemade food and, kind of give it away every day 100 meals, 125 meals on a weekend. And my mom would be a part of that. Turn to me, my mom instilled the same sort of values in that as well. So we never, our biggest kind of worrying life is no one should go hungry. So 1% of our sales goes to fat of feeding warm meals to families in India. So in Bombay, which is very much like New York City, very busy. We set up a table there and we feed anyone or everyone who needs a meal on us and they just come up and line up and grab it. So that program has been growing quite a bit. We feed, almost over 250 meals a month and then we also donate our time twice a month. Both of us do to feed families here in the US.
The homeless over here.
Yeah, we cook as chefs, we run kitchens where we cook 250 to 500 meals a month as well.
Just as a way of giving back and making sure that we stay aligned with what we're doing.
And what we believe in. Yeah. Yeah. Which is just
Yeah.
so important. I mean, our ideal goal is to have this program really grow to a point where we can actually build a cooking school in India, hire women who might not have a chance to work or, are really passionate about cooking, give them a job. And then the food that they make at the cooking school can be served to others in their community as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Usually we change it up.
We change it up
Yeah.
because, we find that because this food is actually given out on the streets to the homeless. And they kind of like sometimes to eat what they're familiar with.
Like pasta and
Pasta seems to be the most
or
popular,
Spanish.
but we do use our spices in
Rice
that too. We have a spice called pizza masti, which is really a lot of Italian herbs and garlic, just a bit of like chili flakes. So we do end up using that in our pastas, and so a lot of times we will do with a touch of Indian, but we'll do food that they're familiar with. And
Yeah, like a lot of rice and beans
rice
and pastas. And yeah, just, or we get feedback and people are like, oh, we love the pasta.
Yeah.
Double up on it next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me some more
You
of
know?
that.
Yeah, we'll
and I
we'll
do
do it.
tend to make it a little bit on the rich side because they say, well, they can afford to eat that. It's fine. I can't afford to eat all that cream, but I can have it. It's
Yeah.
fine for you know. So we
Yeah.
usually
Warming.
do like
A good hearty meal for them.
yeah, we
Yes.
always do a protein, a carb,
Yeah.
and a vegetable.
Vegetable,
So
yeah.
three things, a warm meal because they get the cold meals on the street anyway.
Right.
So we try to keep it
Yeah.
a nice
That's
warm meal.
wonderful that you've incorporated that into the business and as a way to give back and that it ties into both of your passions too with
Yeah.
cooking and your
Yes.
spices. So great. Before we wrap up today, I want to ask, and I would love to hear both of your opinions on this question. But looking back over the successes that you've had in the last 2 years with this business, and taking in your past experiences as well, what do you think has been your recipe to revenue?
My recipe to revenue is her. Is
Aw,
working with my mom.
love that.
I would say like this, I have two businesses, my second business, but really working in partner up with my mom, it's a different type of magic that happens. And yeah, the recipe is here, the revenue is coming, and it's all because I think of the magic of our partnership that we have. And of course, like any mother-daughter, we fight, we argue, there's attitude, there's happy times, annoyed times, but they're very small and quick kind of on the surface because we have the same goals for what we want out of our personal life, but more our career and our business. We have those same goals. We're both very much aligned to it. Yeah. So that's my recipe. That's to
Yeah,
revenue.
yeah, I think of course working together is
Mom,
fantastic.
have your
I
own.
love
Get your
that.
own unique one.
But I think, honestly, in my experience, just being as woman, believing in yourself. And I say this every day too. I always said this to my daughters, and I repeat this to any young girl in their 40s, in their 20s, in their 50s. And I actually started this business. My clothing business was with my husband, but I didn't break off with him in the marriage. I'm still in the marriage with him, but I did break off with him in business. I think the success is when you believe in yourself and you believe in what you're doing. Every day I come in and all I think every morning when I wake up and I say, I so believe in my business. I am so sure. I am so positive that I have nothing but success in my path with Satya. And I actually say this to myself every morning. And I think that's the recipe to any business, the resilience, the patience, and the hard work. And that's what we both do. And I have to say, Rama's on the same page as me in that, the resilience that, I can't say that every day is only good news. No, but
Sure.
if I say I'm lying
That
to
would
you,
be highly unusual.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes the news is not as what I and what both of us would like to hear, but it's the result. We say, okay, fine, we're going to cross this hurdle, and tomorrow is going to be a better day. So it's always the resilience and the hard
Yeah.
work and the patience. I think that pays off no matter what you do. You gotta keep going.
Wonderful answers to the both of you. And thank you so much for spending this time with us today on Recipe to Revenue. For everybody to go find you. So Sprouts, Walmart, and tell us your website and anywhere else you'd like for them to follow.
Yeah. You can follow us on our site, www.satyablends.com. And of course, on Amazon, you just type in Satya Blends, actually. And then Walmart's.
Walmart.com.
Yeah, Walmart.com. Exactly. Sprouts in store. And we're in about, like I said, 80 indie stores. So if there's any store close by that you want us to be in, feel free to reach out and we can make that happen. And then, of course, we have a store locator on our website. So you can check us out there.
Excellent. And we'll put that link down below in the comments and on the blog post that goes with this episode. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Leah.
Thanks for listening to Recipe to Revenue. If you're building in the food, beverage, or hospitality space, you're in the right room. Subscribe for more founder stories and real-world growth strategies. And if this episode helped, share it with a friend and leave a review. It's how this show grows. For tools, templates, and ways to work together, visit recipetorevenue.co. I'm Leah Messina. Until next time, keep cooking up the next revenue stream.